This video brought to you in part by Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. This exciting and heartwarming coming-of-age Gen X novel is available now. Check the link for more info. A couple of weeks ago, we spent some time right here on GenXGrownUp talking about the MyArcade Atari 2600 Pocket Player that was recently announced at CES and that is coming our way probably mid-year or so. And while we still don't have definitive information on things like the games included, the feature set, the price point, though we have some pretty good ideas based on previous history, one thing that pretty clearly we know about the Pocket Player is that it does not have expandability. It will not have an SD card to put your own ROMs on it. Now, in previous videos, I've kind of played MyArcade apologist and explained why it's okay to not have an SD card. It's okay to not have expandability because there's a vast sea of consumers out there who don't know what a ROM is, where to get a ROM, or what to do with it. But in this video, I'm going to take the other side of the argument. It's the side where I'm actually standing. As a longtime Atari fan and enthusiast, I have a mountain of ROMs, both homebrew and original games, that I would love to pack onto this forthcoming Pocket Player, but I won't be able to. And there might be other shortcomings as well. I hope that this video could even serve as a wake-up call to MyArcade to show them what's possible if they want to build the de facto premium handheld Atari 2600 experience. Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I am John, and I am a GenXGrownUp, and the mechanism by which I want to kind of illustrate what could be is by looking at this. This is the AtGames Atari 2600 Flashback Portable. It's been out for several years. It's still widely available on the secondary market on eBay or Mercari or wherever you would go, and you can get it for 30 or 40 bucks, around the price that this Pocket Player is rumored to be. But it's no slouch. We're gonna look at it and the controls are, the screen is, but the feature set on this ridiculously inexpensive and cheap little thing rivals anything that we have seen so far, announced or at least confirmed by MyArcade for their Pocket Player. And I want to look and see what could be, because I guarantee you when that Pocket Player comes out, I'm going to compare it side by side with this little thing and use that as a litmus test to see just how well they did. I'm not going to waste a lot of time here on the box other than to point out that it was the Dollar General variant that had 80 games built in rather than I think 70 that was on the first release of this, the non-Dollar General. I should mention that this was actually donated to GenXGrownUp by one of our longtime supporters and friends, Butter Spider, who sent this in the mail to us because I couldn't find one at my local Dollar Generals. I want to talk about the game selection on here, which will shortly become irrelevant when you see where we go, but look, this has not only like original classic Atari titles, and it has Activision stuff. I mean, I see River Raid and Pitfall and Hero on there, but also like homebrew stuff and, like Saboteur and Aquaventure on here, stuff that wasn't released, or at least hadn't been released until very recently, all made their way to this little unit. And if this one, I think there was a return maybe when Butter Spider found this for us and sent. So inside, you get the entirety of, that's it. There's a little instruction manual and there's the unit. Everything else, wrist straps, cables, they weren't included, but I didn't need them. Viewers seem to love the fact that I always throw away the instructions, but let me show you why I usually throw away the instructions just by taking a look at what's in these. It's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, look, here's like an outline of the controller and shows you what all the buttons are, because there are a lot of them, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What are these? The P key, the S key, the L key, it doesn't tell me what they do, it just says what they're labeled, and look, they're already labeled. You can see the labels already on the thing. So this is why I throw away instructions every time I see them. Now, I'll try to keep this lint magnet clean for you. It's not that easy, but quickly a tour of the device, because there's a lot of functionality instantly accessible in this little guy. The first thing I'll point out is this D-pad, which despite being well decorated like Atari and having the ring of orange dashes around it, is hideous. It's so hard to control. It's flat, it barely moves. And again, despite that, you'll see this is the reason I like this unit so much. Up here you have a reset button, a menu, home, whatever it's called, and you have a start button, which is the Atari start button. The layout for these buttons is kind of ridiculous. So the original mold that AtGames had was like for a 6-button, like a Sega or something, and they just keep reusing that. And so, silly, what do you have? So this is the regular A button, the fire button, and then T is actually the TV mode, color black and white. This different sized L and R buttons are difficulty, left and right. You have a pause button, and then over here you have the game select button. So weird sizes, weird layout, they just repurposed this, but the fact that it's all easily accessible and I don't have to dig in menus for, TV black and white, difficulty, all that, it's right here. And then of course I mentioned that's the start button right up there. The bottom has this headphone jack and a power on off switch, but you want to see all the magic, that's around the top here. Look at this. There's a power LED. There's a replay button that allows you to rewind your game and rewind time if you made a mistake or you want to try something out. You got an AV out if you want to plug this in RCA to a TV or something. Internal battery back on the back here, chargeable via micro USB. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. A save state. This is also used for load and save state button here. A wheel here, not a rocker, but a real genuine wheel. And then, yes, the SD card slot. This is the thing that makes the game selection irrelevant. And not just because I can expand and add games that they didn't have the license to, but there's such a robust community of homebrew stuff beyond what anyone might have access to, that having that makes this a real winner. So what we have is a little Atari handheld. It's got as many buttons as an Xbox controller or something, easily accessible to all of the functions you would have on a regular console. And you'll see as we power it on, the screen is okay. I already said the controls or the D-pad is kind of, the buttons are serviceable. But all of that doesn't impact the fact that this is probably one of the most robust and accessible devices for Atari emulation that you'll ever hold in your hand that's commercially accessible. So here we are, all powered up. Yeah, so we have 9 pages. We have 8 pages of 10 games each, and then a 9th page that we'll get to in a second. And just as we saw in the box, a great selection of original games. Look, Parker Brothers Frogger is on here. Galaxian, just all the stuff. And some is like crazy, like this Pac-Man, for example. It shows a picture of Atari Pac-Man, but look what it is. It's like this Pac-Man 8K or 4K, whichever one this is. If only this had been the Pac-Man that I got on my Atari back then. Yeah, cost prohibitive, blah, blah, blah. We know why it didn't happen, but no offense, Todd Fry. And again, I can't overestimate the importance of inclusion of things like Pitfall, right? So this great Activision classic. You can see the screen, by the way. Pretty limited view angle. See how it fades out a little as I turn? It gets gray. Yeah, it's not a great screen, not a great D-pad. I keep apologizing for that, but it just doesn't matter to me. It's just so good. And, you want to play some Pitfall, and it's in your hand, and off you go. Ouch. Oh, Pitfall. They even include Pong on here, which is, again, there was no Atari game called Pong. It's actually Video Olympics. It's just that wouldn't fit on there. And they do a decent job even of interpolating the controls for, look at the acceleration that you get, since you have no paddle. I also want to point out, look, the difficulty switches. You can see down here it says hard and easy as I toggle them. And that's like paddle size in this case, right? So see me getting hard and easy. Even shows it on screen so you know what's going on. And then you can play some Pong against the computer. Maybe. Yeah, see, I even hit the ball. Sometimes you can't do that without a paddle. Like that. And I could spend all day playing Atari games, you already know. Let me show you some of the features. Yard's Revenge is a great place to show off these features, I think. So let me just jump in here. All right, so I'm playing some Yard's Revenge. Here I go. Oh, by the way, pause button, another baked-in feature. Button's right there. I just tap the A to continue. Ooh, that Kotal came out fast. Yeah, everything's going fine. I'm shooting some stuff, and then I accidentally run into a bullet. Life lost. Unless you tap the replay button. Check this out. I can rewind or fast forward in time, or I can just play it in real time or up to resume. So I'll go find the spot where I died. Let's see where that was. Oh, right here I ran into that bullet, remember? Well, let's rewind a little bit, and then let's resume. Now we didn't die. So you have a rewind feature that allows you to play with these games in a way that Mother Nature never intended for you to do. And maybe you're having just an absolute great game and you want to be able to resume from here later. Tap this save button right up at the top. Again, menu appears on screen, A to exit, down saves, up loads the last save, or I can start to quit back out of this. So I'm going to do a down to save. Are you sure? Yes. There we go. So I can fly around, do some other stuff, and then tap that button again, and I want to load, up to load, right back where I left off. Tap, load. You just never know when, look, pause is great, but what I have to go, I have to go resume my normal life and do adult things, but I want to continue from where I left off to be able to load this game up and say, yeah, load my state. There you go, right where you left off, and continue. That's just a feature that, for adults who play games, this should be on everything, including anything that's playing Atari games in a handheld unit like this. This is all well and good, but look what happens when we add the magic of a little SD card. Once that SD card is in, I come back, boot it up again, and I go from page 1 back to page 9, go to this SD card browser. It takes a second to read all the files that I put on that little SD card. Look at this, 101 pages of stuff. Things that are already on this unit, things that weren't on this unit, like Superman is one of my favorites. Let's go to the S's. I want to play the Superman game. Look, you couldn't get the license from DC to put that on this unit. You know what? You didn't have to. I can play Superman right here. Oh, look at that. Love it. Love it. Get in there, Clark. And away he goes. Yeah, you'll have to pardon, again, the screen can be a little wonky at different angles, but that's okay. And I have, again, access to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of titles that I've put on there. They could be legitimate Atari ROMs, they could be homebrew stuff, they could be... Look, the Atari has become just an absolute robust location for developers to see what they can do and to be able to run your game on a handheld like this. Not one that's locked down, but one that has an SD card expansion slot. And I know that some hardware manufacturers think that putting an SD slot in there will diminish the value of the games because users can put anything they want on them, but look, they did it like 4 or 5 years ago, and it did not signal the apocalypse. And look, the inclusion of this SD card it's the crux of my argument here and why it's smart and well-advised and prudent to put an SD card into this forthcoming Pocket Player or any future Atari 2600 unit for that matter. This thing's been out for, 4 or 5 years, and yet the world has not ended. The market for the 2600 software has not crumbled. The demand has not diminished down to zero because everybody has what they want. There's still a market, even though this unit and other units like it have all had SD cards in them. To not include it in this forthcoming unit that My Arcade is poised on the precipice of delivering the best handheld experience from a hardware perspective and leave out options like expandability and some of these better features, the argument that it's going to wreck the market is absolutely unfounded. If that were true, there would be no market today for 2600 stuff. And as My Arcade can tell you, there is. They're releasing it this year. So maybe you want to play a great modern Atari 2600 game like Save Mary. Have you tried this one? You absolutely should. You absolutely should. Look at 1990, this thing was released. Look, this is an incredibly clever game where the water is rising and you need to save Mary, this lady that's sitting down at the bottom. You have to build up these things for her to escape on, to walk on. You can grab these building blocks. Would have been an amazing game back in the day. Didn't happen. But to have it on a handheld like this, look, I'm saving her. The water's rising and she's still fine. Or maybe you want to see how somebody ported the Star Wars arcade game to the Atari 2600 and see just how well it made it. Look at that. This is running on Atari 2600, and look, you're never going to get a Star Wars license on a little handheld like this, but the SD card made it totally doable. And look how respectable this stupid thing is. It's crazy cool. Or maybe you just want to play a classic like Space Invaders that wasn't included on the unit? No problem, right? Man, who didn't spend months of their life playing Space Invaders if it had a 2600? I know I did. This is exactly why, all these many years later, this AtGames Flashback Portable continues to be my go-to handheld Atari 2600 emulator. Despite its shortcomings, Despite the fact that it doesn't have the best controls or the best screen, or really the best of class anything, the robustness of the feature set and the ease with which I can access those features, nothing has come close to replacing this. And with other things coming in the future, I'm looking at you, my arcade. You've got that Pocket Player coming. You absolutely need to consider what has happened in the market before and what ramifications those things have had and whether or not it makes sense to include it in your forthcoming Pocket Player. I would vote it makes sense. And some of those other features probably do too. Hey, if you want to see some more videos we have done on this topic or Atari in general, I'll put some links here and here over my shoulders. I absolutely hope you found something to enjoy though in this video, and I cannot wait to talk to you next time. Bye-bye.